We're dealing with the topic of post-abortion healing. What has been in the news these days? Everything about Roe v. Wade. But what about those that have suffered in silence, that have actually had an abortion, but feel too shamed and ashamed to talk about it? How are they going to ever get healing? Well, we have a very special guest who went through that experience, and she thought that everything was fine until a number of years later, actually decades later, when she began to realize that maybe what she thought had been put to rest within her was not entirely put to rest. We will look at that next on this edition of Journey to Healing.
Welcome to Journey to Healing. Do you find yourself discouraged, troubled, in need of healing, but not sure where to turn? Jon Uhler, a licensed professional counselor, is here to help. Jon has more than 25 years of professional experience helping people deal with the issues that keep them emotionally and spiritually stuck. There is help. There is hope. There is a God who loves you and wants to help you find peace and strength. And Jon Uhler is here to help you find that on this edition of Journey to Healing.
About 40% of all women, at least according to the Alan Guttmacher Institute, which is really Planned Parenthood's research arm, and I've read stats saying that's no different in the church. So that means about 40% of any congregation, as far as the women goes, have been impacted directly by abortion. They themselves have had an abortion. That also means that oftentimes parents have been, in one way or another, aware of and involved in facilitating that. And we have a guest, and if we can work things technologically, Renae will be joining us. Renae is a woman. She's a registered nurse who has made it her career. She has been working her way through her own career goals, but started to notice that something was amiss. She was finding herself mildly depressed. She was starting to feel anxious. There were things that she was experiencing that she actually sought out help for. Well, she and I connected in a different venue, and she and I began to talk. And lo and behold, she believes that it was divinely ordained that she eventually would be connected with her former boyfriend, though many years later, decades later. And she began to interact with her former boyfriend. They both have gone their own separate ways, of course, but they reconnected, and then her mother was a part of that because she was age 16. Renae was. And so what should happen for her is, little by little, there was a rekindling of that which she thought she had put to rest. And so she started to experience anxiety. She started to experience some depression. She wasn't sure why. And then little by little, things started coming back to her. She thought she had put things to rest, but they were still very much kindled on the inside of her. So she went to a retreat. There was a ministry featured on Focus on the Family, and she decided to go to that retreat. And the retreat specifically was for post-abortion healing. She went there, and it was life-changing for her, and she wanted to talk about it. Renae is on the line. We're going to try a first here. Renae, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in whatever way. You and I have gotten to know one another, and you recently went to a retreat that you heard about through Focus on the Family. Why don't you talk to us about the retreat you went on, and then talk to us about your story.
Sure. First, I just want to say that I'm glad to be here and be able to share the story with you and whoever sees this. The retreat is with Deeper Still, and it's for the abortion wounded heart. And it's really like just the healing from God, and Deeper Still is, that extension of Him, that His hands and His ears and His heart, just a little bit of that here on earth to help you dig deeper into that deep emotional pain that's really locked away.
Thank you for visiting our Deeper Still website. My name is Karen Ellison, and I'm the president and founder of Deeper Still. It may have taken some courage to even visit our site today, but I can assure you that you have not landed here by accident. If you have an abortion-wounded heart and you want to read about our healing retreats, please take some time and read the testimonies of some people who have been through our retreats and have received amazing healing and lasting freedom. Or you may be someone who's interested in starting a Deeper Still chapter in your area. We also have information about training and how to get started. Whatever your reason is for visiting us today, thank you for your search. Take your time and read, and if you want to contact us, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you, and God bless you for going deeper still.
So, I came, as you mentioned, I came to know about Deeper Still on my journey to healing. So, I had been asking God to make me whole for a few years, and He ended up answering me and saying that I would return to my first love. And so, lots of things happened, but I ended up on a journey to healing. And throughout that process, in order to be made whole is to also to know the truth. And after I was sure I was healed, the pain from abortion started knocking at the door. And I knew something was there because the way it came up was kind of out of the blue on New Year's of 2022, this year. And it's New Year's Day, and out of nowhere, my mom made a comment of something that I said that happened during the abortion. And that was when I was 16. And so we never talked about that, or it never came up. But what was not ironic, but very upsetting to the flesh, was that an hour before that, I was telling a friend of mine about the abortion and why, when I came to know that that was not right, was after salvation, and I read the scripture that let me know. And so that's where all this kind of began, and I ended up seeing a video from Family First and Deeper Still, where they were there, and they were sharing and talking about the ministry. And so I ended up calling the lady who was on the show, and it went from there. I registered, and I ended up going to the retreat about 4 months later.
Renae, tell us again about this organization, and then we'll also have. Do you have an email that if people would like to get a hold of you? If you do, that's fine. If not, we can have them go through SurvivorSupport.net. Do you happen to have an email?
Yes, I do have an email. It's. Let me get it. Be very specific here.
And we'll encourage anyone as you're. I think that's probably a new email that you have set up for anybody that wants to reach out to you. So if we have anybody that this has impacted and would like to talk to someone who is in the process of healing, they then can reach out to you through this email. So go ahead and give us your email.
So the email address is thefirstworks@gmx.us. So thefirstworks, one word, well, all together, no spaces, at gmx.us.
So the first works at gmx.us.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, continue. So you had, how many abortions did you have?
I had 4 abortions.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, 4. The first one at 16. And I guess the second one the year after that, and 2 in college. And what's I guess a little scary about that is the way the decision that was okay started with the first one as a way of fixing a problem. And in those years of your life, you don't have judgment that is mature. And for me, I really didn't know that there was anything wrong with it. I really didn't think that that was life yet. But regardless of what I thought and what my mind and body was mature enough to understand, my soul knew. And because of that, there was a damage that was done way down, like at the essence of being a woman, being born as a woman child. You know, when you're born, you have every ovary you'll ever have. You know, nothing's new in there. And it's like at that level, at the cellular level, all the way, the soul that never dies, that was damaged before I knew what real damage was. And so 4 abortions, the reason that I never had another abortion is because I gave my life to Christ. And once I thought, hey, I know I'm forgiven, once I knew that, okay, this isn't right, that wasn't right, and I was forgiven, I just kept going. But I wasn't healed. But I didn't know that I wasn't healed. I didn't know that something needed to be healed. And it has been like crippling me my entire life after that. So, and I'm pretty sure, based on the retreat and the women and men that were there, you did the same for all of them. And the average age was probably 50s, and most of the people there had already been through other avenues of healing. They're ministers, they've gone through seminary school, they've prayed, they go to church, they have dynamic ministries that do the work of God. But that place that's broken in you are not able to get to it. It's a real hard one. It's a real hard one. Some are aware of the pain. I was not aware of my pain. I couldn't even feel it. And I tried, once it came up on my journey to healing, I tried different exercises to break that ground up, to let that out. And it started to work enough to let me know, okay, yeah, there's something wrong, because I felt things I hadn't felt. And it wasn't until I spoke to one of the ladies of Deeper Still, once I called the number, and she told me a little bit of her story, just a little bit. It's like it was something that was bearing witness to my spirit, like, aha, that's the thing that was waking me up. I just started weeping, and not because of her pain, but because I actually felt the pain, which I welcomed, because I knew there was hope. It was foul ground, but I knew there was hope and that there was something that needed to be done.
Renae, when you say that you didn't know that there was something that had been suppressed, yet then something started to stir, can you help somebody differentiate or understand that? Meaning, how do you go through those kind of experiences and not know? So this will be very helpful, because people listening to you right now are right there. So in retrospect, what might they be experiencing that may be an indication to them that they think there's nothing wrong, but that still something is down there kind of indicating that things are not quite as they appear?
Well, it could be like just some of the classic signs of suppressed pain that you have just with any other kind of infection. You kind of get the same immune response. But for me, I overparented my daughter that I have, meaning I was overprotective, and I thought it was for other reasons. But really, in talking about it and thinking about it, I was overprotective of her because I didn't want her to repeat the mistakes of my youth, which were what? Abortions. But I never finished the thought. It's like something like just encapsulates the thing that needs to be said and talks all around it and lives all around it, lives because of it, doesn't live because of it, but it's all because of this one thing that's never said. And it's almost like to the point that you forget that happened. You forget that you are rearranging your life or living a crippled life, or not believing in yourself, not able to stay encouraged because of this one thing that you forget that was ever, what is the thing? And so I think it just got buried deep, probably to sustain my mind and my life at that time. But it became forgotten. And so what I noticed from being healed now is this, it's like this, I don't know, it's just like this place that starts as like a glimpse into like a paradise that keeps getting larger and larger as I manifest in the healing. And that was all broken off and cut off from me. That in there lives talent, it lives purpose. Mainly my purpose is so cut off and was in there. And I mean, I was able to function and live, and I went through college, graduated from college, started a job, raised my daughter, was married, and the mistakes along the way look like normal mistakes. But when it comes to the pain and the suppression of the pain of abortion, those mistakes or the moves that you're making in life you are not able to move in the power that you should. That's probably an area that has sucked up most of that confidence to believe that you are like, okay, I know God loves me and Jesus died for me and I'm forgiven and nobody's worthy, but I'm definitely not worthy. And I'll take that. Like, you want to, like, you're punishing yourself. And so that's holding back your vision and your success. Anything that you should be doing here for Him, anything that you'd be doing by the grace that He allows us to do things, like, that would really make a difference. I don't know if I can just really explain that, but it really holds you back from why you're here, just the purpose of your life. And I know other trauma can, any trauma can, but I'm saying that what I want people to know is that if you haven't dealt with the pain of the abortion, then it is definitely one of the traumatic factors of your life that is interfering with your joy and your happiness, and believing that he loves you, and that he doesn't see you any different than anyone else. But somewhere in you, you're telling yourself that, and you're committed to that. You're committed to that statement that not me. Oh, I've got to continue to pay for the thing that I did, but you're not conscious of that thought, but you're living out of it.
Normally we would take a break at this point in time. We're not going to, because there's too much for us to talk about. I will just say that Journey to Healing is sponsored by SurvivorSupport.net. If anyone would like to contact Renae, you can either do so through SurvivorSupport.net, and we will pass along any comments or questions that you have for Renae. Or Renae, again, give us your contact information.
Sure, it's the first works at gmx.us. The first works altogether at gmx.us.
There we go. Okay, you had said something that was very profound for me. You went on a post-abortion healing retreat, and you weren't quite sure what to expect because it was far enough out, literally, geographically, out in the middle of nowhere, and you're not quite sure. So there were a number of concerns, but
yes.
I was very taken by what you said as far as the ages and the genders of who were there. Do you want to describe kind of the ages of people? Because I think it's so profound that there were people there that had ministry backgrounds that they themselves were holding on to the secret, and they had never been able to receive healing from. Talk about the ages of the different people that were there.
I'd say, well, there were at least 30 people there and at the retreat, and the ages were probably 70 to 24.
Okay, so let me repeat that so everybody got that. We had young girls as young as 24, but there were some women that were age 70.
Yeah, at least 2. And the majority in percentage, out of the men that were there, that average age had to be around 55. And then for the women, there were only 2 people who may have been in their 20s. Everyone else was a very seasoned adult, anywhere from 45 to 70.
Wow. I really want to emphasize, we have a lot of different people that tune in to Journey to Healing. We have a number of pastors or those that are in church leadership. I really want to encourage you, if you understand that about 40% of your congregation has directly experienced abortion, then if there are parents involved, and if what we're hearing from Renae is she went to a therapeutic retreat to help people finally process their pain, and there were people in their 70s, there were women in their 70s, then you have people that are sitting in your congregation that haven't had a chance to finally be set free from the shame and the guilt that they're carrying. And I really want to challenge those that are a part of churches to begin to think through what can take place within your church to change the milieu, to change the atmosphere, hear a cat in the background. That is my cat Sebastian. But to change the feel of the church to where people can finally unload, they can finally disclose, so that it won't necessarily take a therapeutic retreat. So we need to allow churches to become places of healing. The survivors of this, those that have gone through this, have been carrying secrets for years. That is enough. They have gone through enough of their own pain. Really, nobody can pile on more pain than the woman that's actually gone through this, knowing that she went through this process. So, Renae, speak to, again, those in church leadership. Help them understand what you saw as far as those older women, and what needs to be known. What do we need to know about those that are still carrying this?
I would definitely say that church needs to be a loving, safe place for anyone to confess their sins so they can be healed. And the judgment that comes with that is massive, as the world is greatly opinionated from the beginning of time about unborn babies. So the first thing that I think I would say to church leaders would be to have a heart, to pray that God soften your heart, give you a heart that would be compassionate and loving towards your brothers and sisters who have experienced abortion, and to put yourself in their shoes so that they will have a safe place to come and get the care that they need after anything, as anything else that what it is they've never grieved or mourned it openly, which is necessary. And it's also necessary to not repeat it, because you're going to make other bad decisions based on the pain of that one that you still won't be able to talk about. And there you are wanting God to heal you, and you can't even get through a true repentance for redemption to have any restoration. So I would say it starts with the leadership having a heart like God when it comes to abortion, and not in just the way of like we're against abortion. The heart for the wounded heart who has experienced abortion.
You brought up a very important point, that decisions can be made out of pain rather than out of healing. And anytime any of us make decisions, more important decisions, out of our woundedness rather than our healing, more than likely we're not going to be able to see clearly, and therefore we are susceptible to now adding insult to injury on a go-forward basis. And Renae, you have a real passion for women who have found themselves in less than beneficial relationships. Talk to us about that. And in what way do you think your early experiences, your early relationships that brought about the abortions, how did that play into the mix and into your future marriages?
Well, relationships with men, the first abortion I had was the most pain I've ever felt, I think, in my entire life, because it went throughout my whole being. See, after the abortion, I clinged harder to my boyfriend. That I didn't know then, but that was the way I was grieving, I guess, to keep him close to me. Because like I said, I guess my soul knew there was a loss, but I kept him close to me no matter what he did. You know, he never was really forgiven, but I didn't let him go. I didn't make him leave. He, it could be mean, dismissive, or insensitive, unfaithful, betrayal. There's a lot of betrayal hurt that was left with me. And what that did, when I did get away from him, I just got away. But now I had another hurt on top of that. That is why I said it went throughout me, because that hurt was quite devastating. And I was 16 and a half. So the decisions I made after that were just, I had no trust. And I had not grown to develop the mind to know, to rightly divide what really was happening in my 16 years. I mean, I thought that was just it. Like, that was life. I never even went back to revisit that. Thank God he saved me. But even after salvation, I still made the same choices when it came to me. Playing it safe, downplaying myself, accepting what I wouldn't tell my daughter to accept, and trying to justify it with understanding. And I never dealt with the heartache I had, not just from the abortion, but then from the father, the relationship I had. And 20 plus years later, on my journey to healing, after the Lord peeled back all those layers, that was the thing that was driving my decisions all of those years. And I still had to go back and deal with it. So, I mean, 2 marriages, and they both knew, my ex-husbands both told me later that they knew that there was a part of me they just didn't have. Like, I was great at, be a great wife, loved Jesus, great mom, but there was a part of me that I wasn't giving. And I couldn't, all I would say was, that part of me belongs to Christ. You'll never get that. But when I going through the journey of healing and started to deal with the truth, and the Lord started bringing those things out, there's a whole nother extended world of me that is all love, that I had forgotten what that felt like, or that even exists. So I'm sure if it was cut off, in that way, it was cut off from myself as well. My own benefit of love, So the men were definitely manipulative and really phonies. Seriously, because they thought, for me, I'm like, hey, I love God. I've already messed up in my life at some point. I'm not going to do anything wrong. And so what that made the men who were interested in me, they saw a benefit, a tender heart, but they also were not that, so they were wearing a mask. And so in turn, they were very manipulative, even narcissistic, and that was kind of shocking to know that I had not really known who I was married to all those years. And I don't think that if I had, I think just the abortion and what it did to me, unknown to me, if I had grown and developed on a path that didn't include that, I don't think I would have chosen those people. I would have had a better dignity and not feeling that I deserved something, but at least had the confidence to be equally yoked.
Renae, do you think that, and I think you just spoke to it, but let me ask it this way. So do you think, having gone through the abortions, you push those down, now they're on the inside, but they're suppressed. Do you think that caused a part of you to settle for less than what God would have for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because the truth was, I didn't believe that I deserved what God had for us. That was for somebody else, not for me. And there are a lot of things in my world, especially socially and culturally, that can be used to back that up. That special, that love, that grace, that mercy, that love that covers a multitude of sins is just enough to cover my sin, but I'm not getting the abundant life. I don't deserve that. And so that was the lie that was feeding me.
So almost as though there was a part of you that was punishing yourself by not allowing you to accept the best of options, kind of having to settle for second best?
Yes. And I always felt guilty if I wanted the best. I felt that I wasn't being humble. I want the best. I'll just take what God gives me. Thank you.
And so you ended up with relationships and therefore eventually marriages. And from what I understand from what you've explained, these are likely men that are not the real deal. They claim to have been Christians. They were church-going men, but in reality, by degree, they may have been the kind of men in 2 Peter chapter 2. That's all by degree. It's really men that weaseled their way into churches, although in this day and age, you don't have to weasel anything, right? That they know the talk, especially if they've been raised in church, right? Or they have relatives, they have a mother, a grandmother, an aunt, so they've gone to church. They're familiar with it, so they know the talk. Yet, meanwhile, their heart's not in it. And if a woman is then feeling on a very deep level ineligible for the best, then she also is very susceptible to a sweet-talking guy that comes along, and because she's cut a part of herself off, she may have a hard time discerning then who she's really dealing with. Would that speak to what I've just said? Does that resonate?
Yes, that resonates. That was one of the things that just really blew my mind. And finding out that, because I was very particular about dating and who I would date and who I talked to. And a wolf in sheep's clothing sounds very obvious, but it is so not. Like, something in me, and I think this is important, that no matter how much I had watered down the brilliance that God puts in us and the discernment that He gives us, no matter how much the pain I had, wanted to give everything the benefit of the doubt and call it understanding and love and humility, there still were signs and still voices that I heard in the good times, in the honeymoon phases of courtship. And there still were things that made you say, what did I just see? Or that still was there, but I didn't have enough, I guess, confidence in my intuition and discernment when it came to relationships with men who are treating you great, to say, that's not really a sheep. Like, it's very tricky. And if you're in that situation and you don't know if you're in, you can look at it like this. If someone treats you perfectly every day for years, that is a wolf in sheep's clothing. To know a tree by its fruit, that can be very hard, because you'll see the fruit you want to see. And and the love bombing and all those things that they give terminologies to now, it can last a long time, because in my situation, my ex-husband believed that he was a sheep. What I mean is that most of the time, if you are narcissistic, you don't know that you are. So, you know, those things I was picking up on, a lot of the self-talk and the, everything he did was right in his own eyes, and just walking around all of me, never bumping into me, there was never any iron sharpening iron. There was never an opportunity for growth on my part, because he had to be perfect and treat me perfectly. But that wasn't real. It wasn't godly, because as soon as he was tired, it's like a light switch going on or off. It was so hard for me to believe if someone loves you, you kind of have to turn that down slowly over the years. You may abruptly end something, but you have to turn it down slow. You can't just walk away for to almost no reason. And that was the thing that really let me know that this person was not just wasn't who I thought he was. He's not who he tells people he is. And that's a real subtle, very hard to see thing. And I think a lot of women are living in relationships like that. There's not enough time to even express how that a person who is that way has been working on that craft of manipulation for many, many years. So it's going to seem authentic, because if they believe it, they can sell it to you. But it's not real, and there were signs. But all of the other perfection that was long lasting just made me ignore those signs. Some of those signs in the beginning. And it still came crumbling down. One way or another, it will. I think it was God's grace that I got away versus staying in it and it crumbling down a different way.
Renae, you bring up a very interesting and very important point. So your relationship was not to a guy that was hanging out at bars, or you know, there weren't the overt signs at first. He was church going, and he almost appeared then like too perfect, and he was able to maintain that. And then before you know it, then when did that start to show itself?
I think what he was perfect at was meeting me where I was. So in listening to me and studying me, he knew that I did not desire to date a man from church because I felt like they were dangerous. I wanted to meet someone who was authentic and was like Christ, but authentic. And so he shaped to that. So, no, he wasn't bar hopping, but that he was before he met me. So he toned it back, but he only did what he knew I would be comfortable with. He wasn't doing what he really would do. So he wasn't going to church, but he talked about church. You know, he was meeting me where I was. So my talk was just, my everyday talk is always includes God because that's what it is every day. So he became that way from watching me, and would tell stories back of Sunday school or why he was made to go to church, that he prays more than probably anyone I know. Just all of the talk, whatever the talk is that can get you though. Had I been more on the side of what people call Bible thumping or whatever, you know, if I was just always there every time the church doors open, then he probably either would not have been able to do that, so he would not have pursued, or he would have adjusted and been doing the same. So he was everything that I would accept and nothing that I would not accept. But the real him was 90% of what I would not accept for my life. For me, I would not choose it. For me.
And as you have made the point that your early experiences then probably clouded your ability to see some of that, especially since the topic is recovering from abortion. So that clouded then some of your perspective. But let me ask this, and we only have a couple of minutes, maybe 2.5, 3 minutes. Renae, you're talking to some parents. They may be older now, and they facilitated their teenage daughter. They may have taken them, they had to sign. In this day and age, not necessarily, but let's say church-going parents, and they were a part of this. Speak to them. Speak to their hearts. What do they need to know so that they can finally offload this shame and find healing?
They need the same healing because, and there were grandmothers there. There were grandmothers there. A lot of grandmothers there who had done that, you know, for their child, taking their child for an abortion. And it was, in that time, the lesser of two evils. And I think they stuff it down and forget it and do everything they can to serve and to treat everybody right and give and overgive. But that pain of being in the know and doing it is something different. And you are forgiven. Absolutely. But there's something to be dealt with in your heart. And it will still be there as everything else around you weakens. It will still be there. It will be there, and it will drive you one way or another. But it's there, and it needs to be healed. You need to be healed as well. You need to be healed also from making that decision, because you have to be carrying the shame and the guilt. You have to be. Even if you're aggressive about how you're forgiving, and I've already dealt with that, I don't think that you have. If you haven't had an experience similar to what a retreat would offer, more than a fast, more than a lock-in, those things just move you closer to that place of healing, because when you get there, you're going to find out the truth. And the truth is that it took a life. You killed a person. And that person may have been your child or your grandchild. And your living children and grandchildren, that was what that would equal. So it has to hurt. And your soul is like keeping you from the pain, but it's time to deal with it as well. You need to be healed. Not just forgiving, but healing.
Renae, thank you for your willingness to be vulnerable, your words of experience. Again, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, they can reach out to SurvivorSupport.net. We will put them in touch with you. We encourage people that have been touched by abortion to get some help. This is too much to carry, and it's too much to carry on your own. Renae, thank you. Thank you for being a part of our program, and we will be sure to have you back. Your passion is to help women avoid the wolves in sheep's clothing, as it were, and so we will talk at a future date about that topic. So I appreciate so much your willingness to be a part of the program.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, John.
I appreciate it. And
right.
Folks, we will be back next week at the same time, Friday nights, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on TECNTV.com. This is Jon Uhler for Journey to Healing.
You've been listening to Journey to Healing, sponsored by SurvivorSupport.net. We trust you've been helped by the information our host, Jon Uhler, has shared. To donate to this ministry, schedule a personal consultation with Jon, or to arrange a professional training for your church or organization with Jon, simply visit our website. On behalf of Survivor Support, we look forward to hearing from you and to have you join us next time on Journey to Healing.